Hashem nasa matzliach. Okay. I guess we'll start. We'll start with the Gemara in Shabbat. Thank you. The Gemara says,
hello, Shiur is coming, we don't hear nothing. Please, let's have some attention.
The Gemara says, מעולם לא יצאה מידה טובה מפי הקדוש ברוך הוא וחזר בו לרעה חוץ מדבר זה. There was never a time, the Gemara says, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a good decree that Hashem promised something good, and he went back on his promise except one time. Whenever Hashem guarantees something good, it's always there, right? Bad prophecies or bad decrees are always subject, they could change, right? But something good, when Hashem decrees, it's happening. There's one time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that something good is going to happen, and Hashem changed his mind and it went the other way around. What is that? It said this was during the time of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, where Hashem sent the Malachim, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent the Malachim down to earth, and he told them, all the tzaddikim, all the righteous people that are supposed to live, you're going to write on their foreheads a letter, and when the angel of destruction comes down, he's going to see the letter on their forehead, he's not going to kill them. And all the Rishaim, you're also going to write their letter on their forehead, different color. And when the angel of destruction is going to see the letter on their forehead, he's going to kill them. So the angel of destruction, when he comes down, he's going to know who to kill and who not to kill. The tzaddikim, he's going to leave, and the Rishaim, he's going to kill. And then it says the Satan comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, what's the difference between the tzaddikim and the Rishaim? What's the difference between these people? Right? Right? Hashem says, these are tzaddikim and these are Rishaim. What do you mean, what's the difference? There's a very big difference between a righteous person and a wicked person. Right? Wicked people live completely against Hashem. Righteous people live completely with Hashem. We're living in the world of Hashem. We're living with Hashem. We follow Hashem's instructions. We do what Hashem wants us to do. We live with that relationship that Hashem wants us to have with Him. Right? So the Satan comes and says, why is it that the tzaddikim deserve to live? Right? It says that the tzaddikim, when they were living amongst all the Rishaim, they had the ability to go and to help them. They had the ability to go out and to make shurim. They had the ability to go out and to be mochiach them, to tell them what to do, what not to do, to help them, to tell them, to fix them. And it says the tzaddikim didn't do it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I know that if the tzaddikim would go and tell the Rishaim that you have to change, you can't behave so wicked, you can't live like this, that they wouldn't listen. So that's what Hashem says. I know if the tzaddikim would tell them, they wouldn't listen. So then the Satan goes back and tells Hashem, you know that they wouldn't listen, but the tzaddikim themselves, they didn't know if these people wouldn't listen, and they didn't go out and tell anybody. They didn't go out and protest. They didn't go out and help people. They didn't go out and try to fix the situation that they were around. So at that moment, it says that the Satan's claims won, and the Beis Din overruled the case, and they put, even on the tzaddikim, they put the letter that even the tzaddikim have to die, and not only that, when the malachim came down, the tzaddikim were the first ones to die in the actual plague. Why? Because they did not protest. They did not go around and help people and change people. People see that. The Gemara says, anybody that has the ability to protest against his city, he must protest against his city. Anybody that has the ability to protest, it says over here, anybody that has the ability to protest in people in his house, for example. Person is at home, and there are people in the house that are doing certain averot and not doing certain things wrong, certain things against Hashem. And you have the ability to stop them. You have the ability maybe to bring them to a shir, to talk to them, to explain to them nicely, right, that they should be doing different things, right? If you have somebody in your house shaving with a razor, right, it's an issur d'oraita to shave with the razor. The halakha says the person shaves with the razor, not allowed to be chazan, right? You have somebody who shaves with the razor. You have the ability to try to tell him to stop, to try to make him, maybe give him a shina to help him not to do Isur Doraita. It's 5 Isur Doraita actually, right? And you don't say anything, and you could say something, all his avirot transferred to you. It's as if you did it. All his avirot transferred to you, right? If a person has somebody in his house that's doing certain avirot, and you know you have the ability to get involved and try to help the situation, and you don't do it, you mind your business, like I say, mind my business, right? All those avirot transfer over to you. Not just in space, it literally transfers over to a person's account. It just transfers over as if the person also did that aviran, right? It says...
You don't walk around and, let's say it's not in your household, right? You don't
One second. We'll get there. We'll get there. No, you don't have to ask. Right? If a person has the ability to rebuke his city and he doesn't do it, right? He also gets nitpas for a city. For example, if a Rav of a city sees that the community is doing horrible sins in a certain area, and he has the ability to get up, to protest, to try to stop it, to get involved, and so on and so forth, and he doesn't do anything about it, all those avirot transfer to his account. It's a big responsibility, right? A person that's a Rav or a leader or something like that, he has a big responsibility. He's responsible for everybody, right? If a person has the ability, like a Gadol Hador or Sanhedrin, to protest against the world, to get up and try to stop things, and he doesn't, he minds his own business, all those avirot also transfer over to his account. To fullest extent. We'll even read the Kavi Yashar, he says over here, right? It brings the same idea, and he says that a person, if he sees other people doing things that are wicked, he must come to them and try to help them, right? First, you don't just come and attack, right? You have to be nice, you have to try to be pleasant, you have to try to talk to them, you have to try to tell them, right? This is not what you should be doing, this is beyond you. From Jews shouldn't be doing such things, it's against halakha, right? So on and so forth. You should try to speak to him in a way that's nice, it's something that he'll understand. Because a lot of times people don't want to do the wrong thing, but say they get caught up. And if somebody's dead that'll explain it in the right way, they can remove them from it. Right? He says to such an extent, there was two chachamim walking, it brings a story from the Zohar. He says there's two chachamim walking, and they met somebody, and the chacham saw on this person's face that he had a lot of avirot on his face. It's called chokhmat partzuf. Right? The chachamim back in the time in the Chazal, right? They would be able to look at somebody and they would be able to know everything that he did, all his avirot, everything that he did. Right? Now I don't think we have this anymore, right? But Lamasa before they used to have it. So he looked at their face and he said, this guy is such avirot on his face, it's horrible, he says. The one rabbi says to the other rabbi. He says, not only that, he has so much suffering in life that's waiting for him and going to happen to him because of all this avirot. It's horrible to see such a wicked person. This is what one rabbi tells the other rabbi, right? And this guy that was there, he overheard him. And he told him, this that you're speaking about me, right? I could already see that you come from the yeshiva of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's yeshiva, they weren't scared of anybody. They weren't scared of anything. They said things the way it was. They were very straightforward. Big Abal Imun, a big Bala Bitachon. They weren't scared of anybody, right? But he said, you for sure learn in that yeshiva. He says, but I'm going to tell you something. He says, the fact that you're saying it amongst yourselves and you guys are talking to each other, you're in a way embarrassing me. Right? And the fact that you're embarrassing me, that in of itself is going to be a satan for you, that this guy tells them back. Right? And he tells them back. So, this person that was there, he went and he said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the end of the day forgives people for their sin. And he started to cry. And his children were there, and they told the rabbis, he says, there's a pasuk that says, there's a tzaddik, that he could be, that because he was such a big tzaddik, he could lose everything. How could it be? It says whenever you have a lot of people sinning, the Zohar says, and there's a tzaddik there, and he doesn't rebuke them, he just minds his own business. This tzaddik, right, he gets punished for all the avirot, even though it's a tzaddik gomer. He says, my father, all these avirot that you're claiming that you see on his face, my father is not like that. My father doesn't do any of these avirot. Unfortunately, what happened is that he lived in a community where people around him were very wicked, and a lot of his neighbors and everybody around him was very wicked, and he never got involved to go and try to help them and try to change them or anything like that. He would go outside, for example, on Shabbat, he would see his neighbor watering the lawn on Shabbat. It's an Isur Doraita to water the lawn on Shabbat. Maybe come and speak to him, come and tell him, listen, you don't have to do it on your own. It's Isur Doraita to law your own. Mamash Chilul Shabbat. It's death penalty, kared, to disconnect the person's neshama from its sort. Sprinkles okay, so you come and tell him, listen, make sprinklers, automatic. Why do you have to break Shabbat? Well, don't do it, let it happen automatically, right? If you have the ability to stop somebody from doing a certain avera, and you don't do it, automatically it transfers over. Automatically transfers to,
Today's day, Rabbi. Today's day.
what? No, automatic sprinkles on the timer is okay. Well, so we're gonna get, now we're just discussing the idea of it. The laws we're gonna discuss at the end. We're gonna discuss the laws at the end. When, how, who, all these things we'll get at the end. But it's very important to know, because this is something that many people are not aware of. A lot of times people just want to mind their own business and they don't understand that we have a responsibility to care for other people's spirituality. We'll get there also. That's also discussion. Right? He says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished him because of all the abilities that he had to be able to stop people from doing what they're doing, and he did not stop him. Right? And he says over here that even if a person is a righteous person and he's a tzaddik, if he has the ability to go out and to stop people and to help people and he doesn't, he takes responsibility for all those people. Right? He says even if you can't stop somebody and you can't rebuke somebody, that doesn't, you have to be very careful not to suck up to people. A lot of times you find, for example, you're sitting with somebody and they don't keep anything, and they're telling you how they enjoy this non-kosher restaurant, and they send their kids over there, and they did this and they did that, and they, right, and you're like befriending them and like, oh, very nice, was it good, how did you enjoy it, oh wow, really, like you're showing them everything they're doing is okay, and the way you're kissing up to them, whether or not you want to do business with them or so on and so forth, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to kiss up to people or make it seem like it's okay if they're doing all the avirot, right? If you're sitting with somebody and he's speaking about certain things that he's doing, he's about to do, you can't tell him, oh, very nice, you're going on vacation over there, and you know everything there is straight, very nice, enjoy, have a good time. He's telling you he's going to a treif place, what are you telling him have a good time for, right? He's telling you, I'm going to the beach on Shabbat, oh, very nice, if you see him, say hi for me, right? You have to, you can't be mechazik, you can't make him feel like he's doing something, even if you don't have the ability to rebuke, you cannot give the ability to be mechazek. You can't strengthen it. And if you do, like I said, it transfers over to a person himself. There's an interesting Gemara in Erchin, and there's a very interesting Gemara in Erchin over here. I saw Rashi and Tosfot over here. The Gemara says over here, it speaks about rebuking people, right? It speaks about rebuking people. It says, if you see somebody doing a certain sin, you're obligated to rebuke him, you're obligated to get involved and say something. As it says, right? You have to go back and rebuke and several times. And then the Gemara says, he will be shocked, Rabbi Tarfon says, if there's somebody in his generation that knows how to receive rebuke. Why? It says over here, you tell somebody, listen, you have to fix this and this particular thing, it's not right, that you're doing a certain, he tells you, you're telling me, look at yourself first, why are you telling me what to do? You think you're any better? Right? That's what people react like that sometimes. Just like people don't like to receive your rebuke, like the Gemara says in the end of Sutan, the generation of Mashiach was going to be, people don't like to receive your rebuke. You're going to tell me what to do, I'll tell you, look at yourself first, don't tell me what to do. But the truth is, it says that a person that's a foolish person doesn't like rebuke. A person that's smart, Shlomo Melech says, like rebuke. Why? Because when you're coming and you're telling me, for example, imagine if I'm in business, and you're better than me in business, and you know much more than I do in this business, and I'm making a mistake, a clear mistake, right? And you're coming and correcting me so I don't lose out, so I make the right moves. Am I going to like you or dislike you? I'm going to like you, right? So when I'm in the business, when I'm in the investment of spirituality, when I'm dealing with my mitzvot, when I'm dealing with my Torah, when I'm dealing with my olam haba, and you're coming along and you're getting involved and you're giving me advice to make sure that I don't lose my olam haba, that I don't lose my spirituality, so how come they don't like you? How come they don't like you when you're telling me what to do? Right? So there, Shlomo Melech says, if a person's a chacham, he understands that this is a spiritual investment for him, he respects when other people rebuke him. For example, if somebody comes to shul, and he's davening, half the time he's not even praying, he's talking, he's looking at his phone, somebody comes and tells him, listen, this is not nice. You come to shul to daven, this is how you daven, you can't be looking at your phone every 2 seconds, you're talking to people every 5 seconds, a middle of Kriyat Torah, talking to people, you tell them it's not nice, I come to shul like this, it's very disrupting for everybody else, it's very disrespectful, right? So such a person, what does he say? What does a smart person say? You're right, it's not nice, you're right, I shouldn't be doing that. A smart person understands that this person is telling you because he cares for you. He's telling you it's not the right thing for you to do. What does an arrogant person say? Mind your business, right? You do whatever you need to do, I do whatever I need to do. right? He couldn't care less. So what is he doing in shul, right? That's just a perspective. A person that has to be able to receive rebuke also. A person has to be able to be willing to listen to other people that want to help him and understand that they're not telling them because they hate him or they're not telling them because they want to. Sometimes you do find that people go ahead and they start telling you stuff in a way that it's very not nice also, not pleasant. So the people that are actually saying something have to know how to say it as well. And then the Gemara says something very interesting. The Gemara says, right, what's better? When you rebuke somebody l'shem shemaim or when you're humble not l'shem shemaim? Right? This is a machloket what this Gemara statement means. Right? What's better? Rebuking somebody l'shem shemaim or being humble not l'shem shemaim? Tosfot over here brings a few opinions. He says, what does that mean? What does that mean to be humble not l'shem shemaim? Person wants to be humble. What's considered being humble? Most people don't know what it is to be humble. What's considered to be humble? If I would ask anybody here, what's considered humble? What's considered anav? What would you say? What would you say if I would ask you, what is anav?
Someone that's more to himself, says thinks that everybody else is better than him.
That could be a low self-esteem also. What? It could be depression too. It doesn't have to be anav. What?
Now it's a low-key person.
Low-key, he might be scared of ayin hara. It could be that he's very arrogant.
Many levels.
Huh?
Many levels of humility.
Anava means a person understands that everything he has in his life is from Hashem. He doesn't attribute anything to himself. A person that's smart knows he's smart, right? A person that's clever knows he's clever. A person that's righteous knows he's righteous. A person that's rich knows he's rich, right? A person doesn't have to deny who he is. A person doesn't have to say, I'm nothing, I'm a nobody, I'm this, I'm that. If a person really knows that's not true, he's just lying to himself, right? A person can say, yes, I'm smart, yes, I'm holy, yes, I'm righteous, yes, I'm rich, whatever it is. But I know at the end of the day, it's all from Hashem. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, just like He gave it to me, He can take it away from me. So therefore, when you approach another person, you have no reason to be arrogant over this individual, because just like Hashem gave you everything you have, Hashem gave him everything he has. So if he's better than you or worse than you, he's really not better than you or worse than you. He's really the way Hashem made him, and you're really the way Hashem made you. This is how Hashem wanted it. He wanted you to be you and me to be me. Right? A humility means you're able to acknowledge that everything's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Arrogance means that I feel like it's all me. It's not Hashem. Right? That's arrogance. Tafsir. When a person that has a low self-esteem is the most arrogant. Why? Because he doesn't recognize the good that Hashem gives him. People that have low self-esteem usually are not recognizing all the gifts and all the good that Hashem is giving them. A person doesn't see that all the good things in life that Hashem is giving him, that's a lack of anava. That comes from a sense of arrogance, a sense of not appreciating anything. That's not anava. Right? That's complete opposite of humility. It says humility, right, is what? He makes himself anav and he doesn't want to rebuke people. He says that's anava lo l'shem shemayim. A person pretends like he's anav, he doesn't want to rebuke anybody. He looks at other people and says, nah, me, I'm not going to say something. Who am I? What am I? I'm not going to say anything. That's him. It's not my job, right? That's he says, anava lo l'shem shemayim. What anava? No, it's not right. But, not right. And what does Tosfot say? You know why he has this anava? Why is it not l'shem shemayim? He's not saying anything because, he cares for him or he's anav. He says, why? He's just scared he doesn't want the guy to hate him. That's why he's not saying anything. I'm going to say something to him. He's going to start hating me. It could ruin our relationship, or he's not going to want to do business with me anymore. Right? It's a different calculation that's really happening. He's just putting an outside exterior coating on it called anava, humility. Right? No, me, who am I? What am I going to say? I'm not going to say anything. He says, but what is he really trying to do? He doesn't want anybody to hate him. Just like the Gemara says, any rabbi that everybody likes him is not a rabbi, the Gemara says. Why? A real rabbi is somebody that goes out and he is mochiach. He cares for the people. And when you care for somebody, just like a father that cares for his children, the children sometimes feel very pressured by him. But the father understands, I do it because I care for you. I'm on top of you because I care for you. Right? If a father lets a child do whatever he wants, the child loves his father, he gives him everything, doesn't care anything, come home whenever you want, do whatever you want, right? Is that a good relationship? Obviously not, right? But the child likes it. The child likes his father never tells him anything. It's the same idea. If a rav or a leader doesn't tell anybody anything, Anav does everything just to make sure everybody likes him all the time. That's anava lo l'shem shamayim. The only thing he's concerned about is that everybody should like him. He doesn't do anything, nobody should like him. Right? He'll even withhold back the truth just because he doesn't want anybody not to like him. He says also, the Tosfot says, anava lo l'shem shamayim is the same idea. He doesn't want to rebuke anybody. He doesn't want anybody not to like him. He only cares about himself. He doesn't care about anybody else.
Maybe he doesn't want to push away the person.
We'll get there. Right? We'll get there. Some that say, right? What does that mean to be a humility l'shem shamayim? It's very hard to discern who's really humble and who's really not humble. Sometimes you could find people that are very rough and very strong personalities. They give off a very arrogant impression, but they're really very humble and nice people. Sometimes people might give off a very humble, very nice, very sweet impression. They look like the sweetest people in the world, but they might be very arrogant and nasty people. It's very hard to discern. It's very hard to discern people. The only way you could really know who a person is when you really know who a person is. It's very hard to be able to discern people just by their outside character. You can only know people when you really, really get to know them. Right? So it says over here, what does that mean? To be humble, lan l'shem shamayim? Right? It means ga'ava. Right? Meaning to say, ga'ava or shemru anafu mashmir atzmo v'shotek v'chirafo. It says sometimes people are so arrogant that they want people to think they're humble. You understand this level of arrogance? People are such ba'alei ga'ava that they want to develop a reputation of being an anav just for kavod. That's what kind of ga'ava they have.
100%.
Right? He says that what? Somebody sometimes says something to him, degrades him, puts him down. He says, chai, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to put my head down, this, that. Right? Deep down inside, he's very arrogant. He's fuming. But he just doesn't want to say anything because he wants to develop a relationship. He wants people to honor him. You see what kind of person he is? He knows if he's going to say anything, he's going to lower his stature. So he's not doing it because he's anav. He really forgives. He's mochel. He really cares. He's doing it out of gava. He just wants a reputation, so he doesn't say anything. Right? Avan, right? So therefore you see, there's two different perushim of fake anavan, the Tosfot says over here. Right? The machloket, the Tosfot just discussing, what does it mean, anava shelo l'shem shamayim? The Rashi says, anava not l'shem shamayim means that you don't want to tell anybody anything because you want them to love you. What does the Tosfot say over here? If you don't want to rebuke people because you want them to love you, what does the Tosfot say? It can't be that that's anava l'shem shamayim. Tosfot says, zerasha gamur. Tosfot says a person that doesn't rebuke people because he wants other people to like him, he doesn't want to ruin his reputation, he cares about his kavod more than the other person's neshaman. Let your olam haba be destroyed. Yet your neshama be destroyed. You can destroy your relationship with Hashem. You could do whatever you want. As long as you like me, as long as everybody likes me and I have a good reputation, that's all I care about. My kavod is more important than anybody's olam haba. My kavod is more important than anybody's neshaman. Tosfot says such a person that he doesn't rebuke people because he wants everybody to love him, right? Which would be very common for a leader of a community or people of that stature, but it could even be amongst people. If I know I could rebuke somebody, I can help somebody, I could change somebody, but I don't want to do it. I like having a positive relationship with him. I know he's not gonna, right? The relationship might change, but I could save his life also. I could save his spirituality, and he might listen, he might change, right? I don't do it because I want him to like me. The Tosfot says such a person is a Russia. He's selfish. Wow.
It's a very dangerous spot because then the person will have animosity towards you. At the same time,
Developing too many.
What?
Why is this such a contradiction between Tosfot and Rashi?
You need to be clear in your question. What?
There's a contradiction between Tosfot and Rashi.
If what?
You said that Rashi said one thing and Tosfot said a different thing.
It's two different opinions of no. It's two different opinions of what anava lo l'shem shamayim means. That's all. Now there's halakha in Chod Yom Kippur. We'll do this halakha and we'll stop here. This is the halakha that we need to know. When does a person rebuke people? It's not always easy to rebuke people. It's not always easy to tell people what to say. People don't like to hear, and people don't like to be told what to do. You know, the psychology is of raising children, for example. You could see it even in children. Children, if you come to a child, you tell them, hello, spat, vosim chisov, right? Automatic, anti, right? Automatically when you tell them you want something to do, it develops anti. Now, you have to go and clash with it. But if you know you want him to go to sleep at 8 o'clock, you already tell him at 7:30. What time you want to go to sleep? In 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? You know he's going to say 30 minutes. He's going to say, no, 30 minutes. Okay, no problem, 30 minutes. You still said 8 o'clock, but you let him choose. And you let him choose even more. Now he thinks he got away with it. But really you just told.
He doesn't answer.
Right? Right? My point being is, the human psychology is that when you tell somebody what to do, it automatically creates a defense. It automatically creates like, people feel like you're attacking their ego, as if you're above them. People don't like to feel that way. People like to feel like, I know what I'm doing, I don't need other people to tell me what to do. And therefore, when you're coming and you want to rebuke somebody that's not doing something right, the most common case would be in a shul when people are talking, right? Somebody's trying to pray and somebody's talking the whole entire time. It's very interfering. So sometimes you don't know. Some people will tell them, can you please, be quiet a little bit. It's very interfering. They'll say, okay, I'm sorry. Some people will say that. And some people won't. Some people will say, mind your business, right? Some people won't care. So it's very hard to know when, very hard to know how, right? But that's just one example. There could be other examples also. If you know somebody, your friend wants to go now to a non-kosher restaurant, you have the ability to stop him. Maybe try to convince him to go to a kosher restaurant, right? So you have to see when you need to say something, when you don't need to say something. So let's just read the Shulchan Aruch. This is going to be the halakha and the final point that we need to know. When we could rebuke and when we can rebuke. One, the Shulchan Aruch speaks about the mitzvah of Erev Yom Kippur. You have to accept Erev Yom Kippur earlier. When you have to accept Yom Kippur earlier by a few minutes. It's Tosefet. You're not allowed to eat until Shkia. At least 2-3 minutes before. We do even more, right? At least 2-3 minutes before Shkia Erev Yom Kippur. Already have to stop eating, stop drinking. There's Tosefet, there's the mitzvah of Tosefet. The Shulchan Aruch says that the ladies, they don't know. They eat all the way until Shkia. Shulchan Aruch says it's better that you don't tell them. Why? Because they're going to do it anyways. It's better they do it by accident than they do it on purpose. That's what the Shulchan Aruch uses that term. So we have to understand what that term means. Because a lot of times people hear that term and they use it everywhere. They're not really using that term because they care for the people so much. They're using that term because they don't want the responsibility of saying anything. So say, let them, it's better they do it by accident than do it on purpose. I don't have to say anything. It's just a sort of a defense that I don't have to go out of my way to do anything. But the reality is it doesn't always apply. Right? He says also, the Rama says, so to also other things that are usher, if you know that people are not going to listen, it's better that they do it by accident instead of telling them on purpose. For example, if I know you're not ready for something, but you don't know if it's usher, then you're doing it, right? And if I know I'm going to tell you it's usher, you're not going to listen anyways, I shouldn't tell you. Why? Because you're not going to listen. You're going to continue doing it. Now I made your avirah worse. Before it was an accident. Now you're doing it on purpose. He says, but this only applies to things that are not explicit in the Torah. Meaning to say, if you have a certain mitzvah, right, that's not clear in the Torah. Say it's a drush in the Gemara, even though it's Doraita. Like this mitzvah of accepting Yom Kippur early. It's not a clear mitzvah in the Torah. It's a drush. Chachamim made a drush from the Pesukim to prove that it's a Doraita. But again, it's from the Gemara. It's not a clear verse in the Torah, right? But if there's a clear verse in the Torah, for example, breaking Shabbat, if you see somebody going to light a fire on Shabbat, clear verse in the Torah, you're not allowed to light a fire on Shabbat. You have to tell the person. Even if you know he's not going to listen, you have to tell him anyways. Even if you know he's not going to listen, you have to tell him anyways. Right? Because once you tell him, you did your part. Now you're not going to be punished for that sin. So you still have a mitzvah to tell him. And maybe he'll listen. You never know. Maybe it might be a chance that he'll listen. He says, however, if you know for sure this person will not listen, for example, if you know for sure this person will not listen, he says, if it's something clear Issur D'Oraita and clearly written in the Torah, the Ramah says you have to constantly tell him until this person gets angry, until he hits you or curses you. Right? That's an individual one by one. But if you're telling a rabbim, like a lot of people, it's enough just to say one time. For example, if you go into a shul and people are speaking non-stop, every moment asur to speak in a shul, right? Especially between Kriyat Torah and between davening. It says, the Gra says, if a person goes to a shul where they speak, it's better for him to daven at home. Why is such a shul that tefillot don't go up? They don't get answered. The Gevil Gaon, right? The Vilna Gaon, right? And not only that, the Mekubalim say that when people speak in shul, right, it creates a tumah in the air, and that tumah in the air doesn't allow the tefillot to go up, doesn't allow the prayers to go up. The Baal Shem Tov one time came to a shul and he says, I see the shul is full of prayers. They say, what do you mean? He says that all the prayers got stuck in the shul, right? All the prayers got stuck in the shul. So there, the Rav would have to get up and just say one time to the people to calm down and not to speak, because he knows at the end it's going to be very hard. They're not going to listen. Right? So one time just to rebuke them is enough. You don't have to constantly go over and over and over. He should, as a Rav, he should. People should understand, but one time would be enough just to be mochiach the rabbin. He says over here something interesting. He says, what about if you're dealing with people that already are completely off? They break Shabbat in public. They don't care about anything. They live like complete goyim. Such people, are you obligated to rebuke them or not? He says no. Such people that are like completely like goyim, they will break Shabbat already in front of a Rav, you're not obligated to rebuke them. If you see him getting into a car on Shabbat, you don't have to go and tell him anything, because you know for sure it's ready. They're not stopping. If somebody breaks Shabbat, but he does it privately, right? He doesn't want the rabbi to see, he doesn't want anybody to know, he does it in his house, there you have to rebuke them. You have to tell them, you have to speak to them nicely, and you have to try to see if you could speak to people, to speak to them. You have to see how to arrange it, how to make it happen, right? And you constantly have to be involved until you're able to affect these people, or whether people eat not kosher, right? They might be somewhat religious.
The whole thing is not because for you to get a mitzvah or something, it's to help your
It's to help the other person, right? That's true, right? If you know somebody that's eating non-kosher food, right? But he keeps other things. If you have a way, or you know people that'll talk to him to try to get him out of it, you have an obligation to be involved to try to help this person stop eating non-kosher, because you have to care for him. What? Tochacha is the mitzvah, yeah. Rebuke. No, it's a mitzvah, but the root of the mitzvah is not me, it's you. Right? And if I don't help you, I take the avirah for myself, because the fact that I could watch you drown and I don't do anything about it, so I sort of take a hand in it as well. And therefore it's very important for people to know this mitzvah of rebuke, right? But you have to be very careful also. If you know that you're going to say something to this person, he has to be somebody that likes you, somebody you feel comfortable with also. If it's a complete stranger, so then you have to know how to approach him, how to do it in a way that he sees that you're doing it because you care for him, right?
I'm saying you gotta know how to approach him. You're Russian,
That's true.
You gotta know how to approach him.
Right, you have to know how to approach
The
it.
whole universe to approach a person.
That's true.
You gotta know.
So you have to make sure it's not a stranger. If it's
This is very deep.
If
you
it's
gotta know how to approach, because you can approach him 20 different ways. And
if he's a stranger, then you don't approach him. You tell somebody. Then you tell somebody that knows him to approach him. Because if you don't know him and you're a stranger, he might not listen to you.
You gotta give example how to approach. From the book, 5 different approaches you have to do. This is what you have to teach.
Well,
This is very interesting.
I'll tell you.
Because if you want me to do what you're teaching me to do,
Yeah.
you have to teach me how to approach from the book. Because if I read the book, I don't understand. You read the book, give me the lesson. I'll give you my attention.
next lesson.
Тихо, ребята. 1 minute.
So, in order for me to tell you how to approach somebody, it really depends on your relationship with them, and it really depends on their personality.
People have different relationship.
That's exactly why it's very hard for me to tell you a case, because at the end of the day,
The book, they have the levels of the approach.
you have to, for that.
It's not because I have something against. Don't get me
No.
wrong.
You have to be able to use your logic in every situation.
Logic for
Sometimes,
me, no logic for him.
sometimes if I'm in a certain situation and somebody's doing something, I have to assess the situation in order to not approach him. I have to see the mood that he's in, the circumstances that we're in, how I feel, what he's doing. I can't just tell you a general case, because it could change, it could vary. But you have to use your brain to know that if I'm just going to go and tell somebody something, he's not going to listen. You have to know your relationship with him. You have to try to talk to him. Right, you have to be able to. You have to be able to do it in a nice way. You have to know that if you have a neighbor, for example, that doesn't keep Shabbat, but he doesn't break Shabbat publicly, you have to
He
try
doesn't
to.
keep the Shabbat, but he said he keeps Shabbat. What are you going to say to him?
You know that he doesn't keep Shabbat. He knows also he doesn't keep Shabbat. So you speak to him nicely. Maybe you invite him to speak to him. You try to speak to him about the importance of Shabbat. Maybe give him a shiur, be friendly, say Shabbat Shalom.
Sometimes you tell him the importance of Shabbat. The rabbis like you give him the subjects of the Shabbat. It doesn't work. We're going to work.
Yes, 100%. Sometimes a friend that has a good relationship with somebody might have more an effect than the rabbi in the shul will have on somebody. Right? It's not you might be able to give this person the inspiration that he needs in order to stop what he's doing.
Есть книги, которые красиво, я не знаю, какую книжку вы там держите, но есть книги, которые объясняют approaches, подходы, заходы, выходы. И сверху, и снизу. Есть такое? Есть. Есть такие.
It's very hard for me to tell you because
Not you. I'm
It's subject to people.
But
It's subject to people.
да, но понимаешь, он же обширный, говорит, что если ты с кем-то...
It's for sure not the right way to attack somebody in surprise. That's for sure.
У него здесь, например, полчаса 40 минут говорит, он нам просто перед Рош ха-Шана дать нам...
Не, он, he does what I appreciate.
I'll tell you one thing, I'll give you, on Rosh Hashanah, it says that a person's davening changes a person's decree, right? How is it that davening changes the person's decree? If it was already decreed on a person what's going to happen to him, then how is davening going to change? Hashem already saw that this is what's supposed to happen to him. You know what it says? It says because when a person davens with tremendous amount of kavanah, he changes who he is. And when he changes who he is, the decree that was made on him before is not on the same person. Nice chiddush. So therefore, if a person wants to remove his decrees from himself, he needs to change himself. When a person changes who he is, automatically everything changes. In the spiritual world, and everything changes in the physical world. Hashem should bless all of us. We should have a beautiful year. Only good gezerot, only nachad ruach. We should be blessed and gashmit and nenuchiyat. Hashem. We could, but
We have 10 people.
yeah, do it. You say Rav Chananya.